Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 for this news report today. Alright, well, I'm going to continue here. We left off with basically talking about secession and stuff like that. And it is on the, I'm sure it's on people's minds, although, like the article said, they don't take it seriously. But I do feel as though there was a lot of people that weren't really represented. I mean, when are they ever in the elections? But I think this last one, it's pretty dang obvious, even to a lot of people that you consider sheeple, that they're not being represented. And just right here in my little town, I've noticed all of these "Don't Tread on Me" flags up. I mean, there's 2 right here on my block, on my street. So I mean, something is changing, and you can definitely see where America's going in 2 different directions, opposite directions almost. China's economy to overtake the United States in the next 4 years. They'll overtake the U.S. in the next 4 years, become the largest economy in the world, says a leading international think tank. Yeah, and it's the same international think tanks that create policies that are pushed by technocrats like Kissinger and that actually carry out this plan. So it's not like, oh man, wow, that's good for the Chinese. Yeah, great Chinese. No, it's the same people. They're just monitoring what they're doing. China signals greater role in global affairs, but sticks to principle of mutual non-interference. So, signaling China's intent to take up a more proactive role in international affairs, Beijing mapped out its foreign policy agenda Thursday as the National Congress of the Communist Party was basically formed. What's my take on this? Well, like I said, the economy was built up, but I don't think it's built up to be any more dominant. So yeah, China's been recently kind of bolstering their military muscles. They got their first, I think, aircraft carrier going and stuff like that, reshaping their military and that. But I don't think they're going to be allowed to rise too much, because that's not the point. The point is to have no nation states, just one basically global governing entity, with all of these leaders of these different nations all basically in servitude to this global government. Of course, it's done through private think tanks and Council on Foreign Relations and Bilderberg Group private closed-door meetings and lobbying and non-governmental organizations. So that's the reality of it. Deadly Indiana explosion leaves investigators clueless. So last Friday, I left you with saying, basically letting you know about how I saw a predator drone flying overhead here in the Great Lakes area. And also I said that an individual who I think is a possible spy that lives around me, whenever he leaves, something big happens. Well, he just returned today, and this is something that big happened right in the same area. This explosion, and it leaves him clueless. Well, why did it leave him clueless? Because there's a good chance that this was a drone. All of the comments on this when it came out was drones, drones, drones right away. When I see a picture of the houses that were destroyed from the air, I couldn't help but wonder if they were destroyed by a drone strike. After all, that's what our drones do in other countries, right? So I was just indicating about how I could just feel this is it. This is when the drones are going to start coming home, flying overhead. And I've been saying this for at least a couple of years now about how eventually they're just going to start drone bombing people in their backyards while they're barbecuing. And of course, good little slaves next door wouldn't even bat an eye. They would just go back to throwing bags or horseshoes. So, this was done on 11/11 while my friend was away. And it just makes me wonder, was this the official drone strike? There's already been an American killed, but it was on foreign soil, right? The Yemeni-born Yemen one, American. And then, of course, they already had their first drone arrest out there in the, Dakotas or Montanas over farmers. But this wasn't during the day. This was at night, in the middle of the night. So... And the other thing is this news. I'll just cover it briefly. $43 trillion lawsuit awaits Obama, White House, and banks. So this is supposedly huge news that's being covered up in the alternative news media. I've actually saw one dude accusing people that didn't cover this as being stupid or basically a part of this conspiracy. Well, I I don't think I'm stupid, and I wasn't aware of it. So you know what I mean. I'm sure there's other people that are like that too. But it goes on here. It says that major players in the Obama regime have been targeted by a lawsuit by the Spire Law Group, who is responsible for recovering $43 trillion in laundered funds and racketeering that has been linked to major banks, crony capitalists, and government officials. So the scheme, based in New York, will be party to the biggest federal government lawsuit in history. Say the government will attempt to recover 43 trillion in taxpayer funds dispersed during the 2009 bailout that totaled is 787 billion to supposedly save the U.S. financial markets from collapse. Among other things such as infrastructure, yet only 6% of the money was ever used for such purposes. So am I going to lead this big bag push? Well, no, I'm not. My thing is the way I see it is, how are you going to, this sounds like the Dragon lawsuit. That's the first thing that was being pushed by Benjamin Fulford and David Wilcock that never amounted to anything. But you're going to use a system that is run by trillionaires and set up by them for them. And you're going to use that same system to basically take down these people that have created and control this system. It's just like when you see I see articles on some alternative websites, news websites, talking about, oh, this law was passed and it's going to ban TSA groping. It's like, why do you even have to pass a law to not be molested at the airport to begin with, You can't just play one and get the other without getting the other. But the biggest thing, of course, was what? Was that this big storm came right after this, right? So you had this, and right on at the same time, you had this big storm come, and trillions of dollars worth of stock certificates and other paper securities that were stored in a vault in lower Manhattan have suffered water damages. So the proof that these lawyers were probably going to use was destroyed. Now, do I think a complete storm was created just for this? No, I think there was multiple reasons, like the gas rationing to condition the people, set up a kind of a military buffer zone out there in the northeast coast, make a lot of money through through insurance claims, mostly fraudulent because they probably knew about it before. But many reasons for it. Drivers go through checkpoint at this Reddington Pass, and when you read the article, it actually sounds it sounds all right. It's just like, oh yeah, discharge rounds. Come on, go away. All right, it's not gonna go away. Reddington Pass visitors had to go through a federal Forest Service checkpoint. Park rangers, along with the Arizona Game and Fish Department, made sure that visitors follow the law. People illegally shoot firearms in areas next to the main road. Many of them leave their empty cartridges, cases, and targets on the ground. You come under to shoot, it just ruins the whole area. So it sounds great and everything. But the problem is what? It's illegal searches and stuff like that. And it goes on, it says forest rangers arrested 4 people for outstanding warrants. They also gave 11 citations, including marijuana possession. Again, where's the victim? Nobody. Underage drinking. Where's the victim? Nobody. And illegally killed deer. Okay, where's the victim? Well, you could say they killed deer. Well, that's only because it wasn't killed the way the government wanted it to be killed. Most likely, they didn't have a piece of paper giving them permission by the parents to kill that deer. Of course, they go to the first slave they can find. Many who went through the checkpoint appreciated the political law enforcement basically treating them like children. I don't mind being treated like a child at all, said Michael. He said they're keeping things regulated and non-free, making sure that sheeple are doing what they're supposed to do, cleaning up after themselves. So it's a good thing. Personal details of 8 million children are on a secret database without their parents' knowledge. It contains information such as child's age, sex, and academic and behavioral records. They can be potentially shared, this information, to external agencies such as social services and youth offending teams. What the hell that means. The majority of parents are unaware that the information is being gathered or how it's used. Like I said this many times before, it's a pretty sad state of affairs, but they're not really your children. They belong to the state. The minute you sign that birth certificate, you transfer ownership, like registration, over to the state. They're used as collateral on debt to work that off. There are some people that believe that those same certificates are floated on Wall Street. But you shouldn't be surprised. They're withdrawing blood for DNA purposes to store in a database. They're doing that in the United States without parents' consent. They don't need your consent. Just like to give your child birth control without the parents' or family's consent at school, at the re-education camp, because they don't need to tell you. They're not your children. And I'll give you just my simple logic as to why that is. Part of it is because, economically, to get the woman out of the house, they want to make it, they use the economy as a way to engineer society. It's economic warfare. So if you make things hard enough, the mother, the person of the house that runs the house and all that, the nurturing, the family, keep things in order, is now out of there. Then all of a sudden, everything changes. And then they have to watch media, and they have to listen to commercials, and they have to listen to school to tell them now how they have to live in this artificial environment. And the best example of showing how most families have accepted this programming and conditioning, this new way of life, is what? Is that you'll hear parents say how they look forward to their children going back to the re-education brainwashing camps, i.e. school, right? They're like, oh yeah, summer's over. I'm kind of looking forward to them going back. And then you'll hear the children actually say, well, I'm looking forward to going back to school, right? So that ties back to the Stockholm Syndrome, or the sadomasochists, which love to be abused by their masters. But then they'll put on this big act as if they didn't know, they weren't aware. And it's interesting because I just made this point with somebody else. Just at the store recently, we were talking about distilled water, and he was trying to recommend it to people. It's over tap water, and the people were telling him, well, it tastes like plastic. And I was telling him, it's amazing what people will do. They'll come up with the craziest excuses to not listen to advice that will benefit them. But that's why it is, because they have to rationalize the irrational. So, a 12-year-old girl forced to take drug tests to join scrapbooking club. So here you go, folks, the latest drug war hysteria. 12-year-old girl wants to join the scrapbooking club at her middle school in Pennsylvania. She can, it seems, on the condition that she has to pass a drug test. One day she took home a permission slip and said that to participate in the club or any school, she would have to consent to drug testing. The article recommends that you go and check this out at your own local school if you do have children there. It says, before you go, school yourself in the sad cases from years gone by in which Supreme Courts have ruled that it's all good to require drug tests as a condition for participation in extracurricular activities at public schools. Microsoft wants to know how many friends you've got in your living room. So Kinect, if you didn't know, is a motion sensing input device by Microsoft for the Xbox 360. It's based around a webcam style add-on for the console. It enables users to control and interact with the Xbox without need to touching the game controller through a natural user interface using gestures and spoken commands. But it says here that its latest one proposes to turn the Kinect camera into a snitch for movie studios, reporting back just how many friends you've got in your living room and what they're watching. The users consuming the content, on a display device are monitored so that if the number of user views license is exceeded, God, remedial action may be taken. Yeah, a lightning bolt or death ray will come and strike you down. It's that blatant, a system to spy on private viewing habits. Wow. But no surprise, remember this article back in March, CIA wants to spy on you through your TV. Agency director says it will transform surveillance. So they're probably already doing it in your cable boxes and your television and everything else. So, but they say spies could watch thousands via supercomputers, and people bug their own homes with web-connected devices. So our big buddy David Petraeus says the rise of connected devices in the home offers spies a window into people's lives. So that's why I try to tell anyone that has those laptops, see friends and family with those laptops with the little cameras, to put some tape over them things. And DARPA wants to equip soldiers with Android phones for predator vision. So helmet-mounted cameras that give them infrared and high-definition vision that can be viewed on their Android smartphones. Let's not forget about the basically mind-controlled bullets. Algorithms allow these drones to avoid obstacles with a single camera. And they ask why. Well, it's to make these drones fully autonomous. That's the goal that they're pushing now. Then the Danish have developed eye control software for phones and tablets. They've also made these smartphones into body scanners. They also made a credit card that has an LCD screen and a keyboard. Travelers leaving or entering the U.S. now have to have their payment cards scanned. U.S. phone addicts suffer withdrawal syndrome. Deprived of nature, kids exposed to shocking amount of TV. Another study urges no TV for toddlers as they cite development and even physical harm. Internet addiction is considered a mental illness. The computer used by very young children causes brain development deficits that are irreversible. Like the Matrix, they're saying that there's possible evidence that our universe is a computer simulation. This is GGN. Thank you.